Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? So then, next coronavirus update, the vaccination program. Now people 65 and older has assisted many people in getting, and we are seeing allocating some vaccinations, and there is supply, especially when we get in these larger groups. It's good to be persistent, and again, the health experts are coronavirus now are more contagious, so people are minding their PPE and social distancing. Good success in our vaccination rates, which are relatively low. So again, we just had to be persistent. And so in our to review what's going on locally. So
I'd like
Yes.
to just add, people at High Watch have been and my plaudits go out to them. And once again, if anyone found, she does a fantastic job of getting you in line.
Great. One other side is that the state taxes if they're having economic trouble from pandemic. There's a month that unfortunately to the media, but they did not. So there's something because they had not. So I've taken canceling those liens for this complete information when they felt they had 3 months to pay for this relief program. So again, I've written. So it's important to, for this relief program, they're still due on taxes are due in order to keep the town. So anyway, hopefully that's, is everybody clear on that? Next on our agenda is recycling, Etiquette, Sustainable Materials Coalition. This is something including Cornwall have seen their organized, our rates gone up as far as the amount at our transfer station. And unfortunately, amount of MSWs going up. However, the incinerators where it's normally shipped are to be upgraded, but that stands at a stand. Has approximately joined again by the commission meeting at the Council of Governments with last to do with this as far as reducing by doing such things as have responsibility for things like 4 tires so that they're at the point of disposal. So they're looking at some programs to try some products which are going to transfer station, focusing in on food waste that is a significant amount of them that could be taken out of the waste stream and recycled. And again, thanks to John for hosting this meeting remotely. Document that John copied for me. And Will are joining us tonight to sort of talk about, give us an update of trends. And obviously this is an ongoing situation. Etiquette Coalition, and I don't expect them to have read this clarity tonight, but there are a lot of ideas out there that municipalities come up with. And again, as an environmentally conscious town, this is something that we should. And again, at the end of this section of the meeting, I would like a motion to take offer to join this coalition. And again, this allows us to be in on some regional and statewide initiatives, average amounts, because this is probably one of the biggest drivers of, I don't know, Ted and Will, don't want to put you on the spot, but do you want to, what you've seen in the last year or so since we've been under COVID? I know there's some procedures at the transfer station trying to keep people apart, and some shop, and there's some other things that we've done, but how about giving us a,
You can, is Will around? Will can,
Will is, yeah,
and then he can,
Will and Bill.
there we go.
Okay.
The whole gang. That's good. Each station is basically the same thing that we've had for many years. The only difference is our uptick in people using the transfer from out of state and who now have residents and are actually monitor the amount of people that are going in there. And what Will and I tried to do, and it seemed most of the people to understand why we were doing it. And they, for the most part, they were pretty good. Keep 3-car minimum up on the tarmac, which is the asphalt portion. The reason for that is that a lot of times we'd have 3 cars there, and we didn't feel comfortable with that, of course, because we're running it, we're out there. It just wasn't working out. We felt uncomfortable. There were too many people there, too many things that Will and I. If we get the people to understand that and keep it a 3-car minimum, it would help us. It would also distance, which we had to do. It's worked out. We've got that's life. We understand that. The recycling industry, plastic, 1 through 7 plastic. We usually take an example of how much we'd have. On a normal day back before COVID, they have 4-yard containers. That's what we would dump in the came up with. At our highest rate, I think it was around Thanksgiving, on one day. I mean, you know, I haven't been there more than 20 years, but that's a lot. Our MSW, which is your municipal solid waste, for those of you that gets burned in Hartford in that incinerator, we were seeing an average of 4 tons, who's the company that picks that up. We rent that. Our normal was 4 tons a week because we get that done tons in 1 week. Again, this is when, you know, COVID really first, and people here in town was just incredible. So I put a lot of stress on Will and I, but we got through it. It seemed to work out pretty well. Our cardboard is huge right now because everybody was ordering online from food stuffs. You know, nobody wanted to go to the stores, of course, and everything was shut down. So everybody was ordering on that. But let's put it this way. Every day and a half, we were making a bale, which in normal to having to make a bale. So that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. And that we got to kind of regulate that too. We've had, you know, people park in the back, which is up on our tarmac. So there's our 3-car limit. You know, we've got it just 2 lanes. It seemed to work out pretty well. And I think most of the people understand that. Other than that, that's about it.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I'm having trouble unmuting.
Okay.
About all over the past 9 or 10 months, I'm looking forward to figuring out something we were paying a lot of money to get rid of. And from what I understand, some of these installing, or at least giving some incentives for. The only issue I see with that is teaching them what goes in there and what doesn't. And that, because you don't want any plastic, that's going to add some more stress to the system. And teach everybody what needs to happen. It's going to save the town a lot of money.
Yeah.
To that, we did start a plastic film and plastic bag to bring, you know, an area at the transfer station where people could recycle them, and a trip, I'd say, I think it was about once a month or once every 2 weeks, with approximately plastic. We're talking big bags. We have to bring it all the way up to Torrington. Due to by the time we get it loaded, by the time we get it up to Torrington, it had to go up to a Price Chit sponsored plastic recycling facility in the back there. All they did was threw it, and they hauled it off wherever that went, you know, when they had a full one. But what I'm getting to, person at the transfer station, it's not feasible. So I know there's back up again. We understand, but there's just 2 of us there, and there's no way we can run everything we need to. And at some point, if the, you know, population goes back to being somewhat normal, I'd be more, Will and I talk about it. And as of right now, there's no way we can do that. But, you know, we in what we recycle compared to, you know, a lot of other towns that are about our size, if more than they do. I know we do. So even big towns, Sharon, Salisbury, they're on a single stream recycle. I don't ever want to see that. I don't see the benefit of that. I would rather have it recycle 100% of that instead of, you know, maybe 60%, because the other 40 are doing studies on that right now, and that's what they're finding with the single stream. So, you know,
Our goals during this whole thing is to keep, what I say, continuity of operations, and certainly you two. Have you seen any, now that we're past the holidays, any volume reduction or steady?
given days, Tuesdays like it used to be on a Saturday. I don't know why. Some days.
So
Yeah.
there's, you know, the weekend isn't as much of a deal as it used to be, because it's like everybody's day of the week, you know, just
That
put in.
Yep.
I mean, not everybody's that week, but back, even if everybody gets vaccinated. I mean, I think we're going to be in this, you know, here. I mean, it's a popular place, and it's have to pay the bill too. So again, appreciate your folks' effort, and I think is not have to reinvent the wheel. But I know the commission did say, which will let you know when those are or what comes out of them. But they are the food waste and work, you know, really take that head on. How do you deal with all that? About that, and I know there are some local places that have begun to do some compost, and a lot of it's public education program. But anyway, the tonnages are up. We haven't put in our budget for the full amount, you know, this spring or July when we start working on some strategies to reduce it. It's a direct correlation between tax increases and the amount of garbage we get rid of. It's not a great environmental thing anyway. So whatever we get out of that waste stream, and make it a good thing. So any questions for the board on any of all this? Any questions, any thoughts?
I think it's great that we're exploring ways to reduce waste, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Joins the Connecticut Coalition for Sustainable Materials Management.
I second.
Any discussion? Yeah, I think they may explore this pay as you throw thing or whatever. There's a bunch of different these numbers down. So anyway, hopefully we'll get some practical ideas. And again,
I'd
okay.
like
So
to add,
yes,
I'd just
Priscilla.
like to add my thanks to both Ted and Will, because they are always so helpful. I'm not the biggest person in the world, and I appreciate all the help I get. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Yeah, I think she's. So then we voted on that. All in favor? Aye.
No, I think that's our both looking forward to working with the state. Now we got a little bit of a, go-to, and they're behind doing something. But I think a lot of stuff here that is in this paperwork that we looked at, I look forward to the food separation out of our MSW. I think that hope it works.
Right, your office there too. So that's coming up. So anyway, we'll work on that once we get. Okay. Anyway, thank you both, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I see Joyce is there. Does that mean Phil is there too?
I second, really
Yeah.
do. And also, thanks to Priscilla for sending me a link on this. I think, can you all hear me? HVA has asked that all the river commissioners select boards about some of the issues that we've been dealing with and ask question about what some of those issues are. Some of the river issues have been in the newspaper, they've been in the journal. Last summer, we had a very, very difficult time points on the river. I think there's 7 towns in the River Commission, and North Canaan does actually not actually have any access points on the Housatonic River. With controlling the non-boat people who would really show up at the river hiking and so on, and this involved a lot of problems with waste law enforcement. Fortunately, one of the problems which HVA, one of the programs, and they actually pay a number of young people to go to to make sure that there's signage in place. And in general, to do some kinds of, actually to put down some figures on what the load is at each one of these river sites. It has to do with getting boaters into the river. These are actually both access issues committee, which is called the Access Subcommittee, good title, and they all as access points to the river. And improved down on the bend in West Cornwall through a grant which went to HVA and what they can. And there's a place for the town to get down to the river, and there's a place for people to get boats to the river, and so on and so on. In the long run is how to deal with all the people that want to be a part of this resource. So to say, if you have too many, maybe what we ought to be doing is not encouraging that many people. The feeling is that we're a little under accessed on the Housatonic River on the dirt road that goes into West Cornwall Music Mountain Road. At one time, there was a pretty good access point, and part of that was river, and so people can't use that, and that was kind of a serious loss. Camp Bull Bridge had to be closed down. There were some picnic areas that had to be closed, and really control came to be very, very difficult. The town would accept that to a certain extent, the problems not there. We work to manage the problems on the river, and HVA is just endlessly helpful. The town might like to discuss or consider what they see as the lack of respect for the landscape, for the river itself, for disposal of junk. The village, they actually had to close the place. They tried putting a dumpster there, and that just. I'm not sure if you have some questions about it. There is some net on what's called Run of the River. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that, but at one time, water was withheld at the falls, and they would say water quality issue in the state eventually shut that program down with our encouragement, the River Commission's encouragement. The boaters can't put their boats in. And their relicensing of their power plant in Falls Village, they are required to do, and I think also at Bulls Bridge, and so that is a help. That's about what he said, that one of the things the HVA would like to see is that the town has some funds to do some further study on the entire issue of people coming to picnic areas and so on. So that's basically what I had to say, and I'll answer some.
I think there has been some increased use. Things became the Great Falls, things got out of control as far as who's in charge, whether it's the owner of the property, whether it's DEP. And of course, one thing I felt all along was part of the problem was that the center is available as they used to be, and particularly in this area, the closure people that often went there weren't able to go see the river. So I did take opportunity last week at the council, towns together with state and regional agencies to ask, were they going to keep the state part. She's very straightforward. Her answer was they want to keep a problem last year where they closed them and they tried to rehire people, getting people to work. It's a good job for some, can get you in a lot of environment. I know HVA again has been a good partner with the people from that group. So my next call to DEP and again try to get them together so we can fully close for lack of people working. Again, I think in one case there was quite a bit of, went down there and there's already some people picking it up. So we just picked up kind of stewardship, goes a long way. We have used the river, appreciate it. And Cornwall, the town crew maintains with the grader and levels to be careful when they do that. Struck, and again, having a place in West Cornwall, that parking lot down there, be more and more used. And there was talk of the West down at the old library down there. So there's an environmental resource center.
It is.
I mean, you can see equally how it's beautiful little villages along the river. We do have some decent parking down there now. Knows exactly what summer will be like. I think it will be a little more manageable than
I think two things I might like to say about it. One is that the river gets. And the other thing is that in terms of access, Clark Outdoor, they definitely need a place to use their vans and their trailers to get a lot of boats in it. In Falls Village, at the power plant, and somebody has pointed out that there's Housatonic Meadows, but the fact Housatonic Meadows and then flow down to Housatonic Meadows. So I think it could possibly be retrofitted as an additional access point.
Well, one we don't publicize, but we might as well. The town of Cornwall does mow West Cornwall. It's called the Elm Tree Lot by the. It's a big field, and we mow it primarily so we can have a landing pad if we need it for. So that's a beautiful big access point. There is owned by CLMP. You can get right down to the river over there and do it. So I think that to me is probably the easiest, biggest. Yeah, it's there. CLMP already owns it. We mow it a couple times a year. So I think, and I think we've got. You're going to get more traffic. You can go there in the middle of summer and be one of the few people on there, except for fishing.
And I think we're additionally putting on the river access points, which are actually not official points. So anyway, there are issues, and I just wanted to make sure there are on the River Commission in regard to.
And I think also having our new electric bike store down there in Western River Road, not that it's not to a extreme level, but it gets more people out in Connecticut. So there's more and more people using the whole river region and different. Anyway, thank you, Phil. Appreciate you sharing this, keeping us up to date with what's going on. And last week before with Bill Tingley there. So we stay in touch. All right. So next on our agenda, number 4 is budget. Or Barbara Herbst, the financial office, has put up on the website the Region 1 business manager, Sam Herrick, on their efforts to maintain and some of the issues they're facing up there. But again, he does a very this Thursday, the 18th at 7:00. Its budget to the Board of Finance, and then followed on March 11th. Board will present to the Board of Finance, and then the Board of Finance works on this for a budget, draft a budget that they will set for a public hearing. Now, whether that's in person or by, but again, people that want to be informed on these meetings, we have a commission. John will send people out the Zoom links. And so they'll find out how to get into these. Interested, encouraged to come to these meetings. I think you'll find them interesting subjects that are covered that are important to people. And then we have a town meeting in May to act on the budget, and that's scheduled for May 20th. So working through that schedule is the state as far as the public participation with social distance and everything else. But in February to the Board of Finance, the school board presents in March, and they will give a public hearing the end of April, and town meeting end of May. So on the website, which again is a new little thing for Cornwall, but we really appreciate Rocco giving us a lot of really good information that's really accessible and want to have is there. So again, here's another whole series of meetings. We can go further into our schedule there, which is the increase in value of property in the town. The amount of taxable property in town is $399 million. There's a state, and it is not taxed because the state doesn't have it. But the total value of the property, almost $400 million. Now, what we like to do is to see that increase, because if that money on, we don't have to raise taxes. If our grand list does not increase, people don't build it, people do taxes with the whole various things that we've heard about, especially this year, whether it's just of getting rid of garbage or a couple other things that are difficult for some of our key organizations in town, including the library. So they're looking to the town for extra money, and we're trying to make this all balance of things. But a lot of these things require money. So again, we would like to, when I first started, we'd see an increase of 3 or 4% a year. We're down now to 0.69, decrease during the Great Recession. So the grand list actually fall. So you'll probably see, as we've seen in the papers recently, they've seen their property sales increase dramatically over last year, pre-con up almost 30%. Average sale values are up 30%, not that. So that whole system is in place. Our assessors are going to be looking at you by October 31st of this year. So again, because they have to spend more money to make sure they get it right, because there's all sorts of different categories that are valued at different rates depending on, that's all part of the mix. We have seen also some properties go off Bayesian, 5 properties this year. So again, the grant list actually would have been going off to non-taxable, and I believe the state is is in the process of buying 100. That is a concern of a shrinking grant list and taxable property list into non-taxable categories. So that's one thing. It's on the cheery side. We have revised our budget. Has heard from our insurance company that the rate of increase, which was originally projected increase, and what's sort of interesting is even though there have been a decreased amount of hospitalization, people are not doing actual healthcare, people are getting surgeries, has decreased in this time. And also overall, as a state, we're seeing less claims against health insurance. It was not uncommon to have health insurance rates go up 10%, 15% in the single digits, let alone 1%. So that comes at a particularly good time for us. So that budget for insurance. One other conversation I had, a couple of, was with Karen Nelson of the Land Use Board and Janelle Mullen, our planner, $1,000 for planning to implement the town plan into the capital budget in the land use budget, which is used budget we have seen somewhere. We were talking about was line 84 public or the employees health insurance. We have decreased was consulting, which is line 87. This is land use consulting service dollars down to $2,500 because in the old the planner services came out of, now we're doing is a more systematic process, and we're doing the zoning regulations. Janelle's undertaking that. The zoning board meets on that $1,000 under that. So with that $10,000, we don't need all that $6,800. So we felt we could still have plenty of money to do the planning we need to do for planning and zoning. So is that clear? Started out over 4% with some of these changes. We're now down to about 0.08. You can see on the cover there. One other place department is up. And one of the reasons that and work with cybersecurity and making sure that we have our data systems to make sure that they are as secure as increases in that. So that's another thing that's pushing us. We did get a request of $7,200 from the $1,000 increase. You can see that's on line 129 on page 3. Grant them a $1,000 increase at this time. Again, we're trying to keep our budget down. Legal fees for land use, that's line 98. So I would like to put that into Economic Development Commission. My reason you can't predict when the town will be sued for decisions, but there's very going on, but there's not many things that are controversial. There's not big issues like those or things where sometimes we've gotten contentious zoning issues. It can easily run much more than that. But I don't see there's any huge zoning issue being built in town. So there's not a lot of activity as far as land use permits at this. The Janitors Committee have done a good job with trying to revitalize the town. The attorney line and put it into the economic development line.
Yeah, second.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on that?
Aye.
One other thing you can see in there, we did put in $2,000 for Little Guild there. That's
Thank
line,
you.
that's Priscilla's new line. One other, we did get a substantial increase in the library, which are both important organizations that have been affected by the pandemic. One thought, proposed this to the Board of Finance, and maybe we'll give them half their request. With all these storms, we're having a good year financially. We're going to wind up in the black where we have to be, but philosophy, as much as we can, is to have our budgets reflect things. And if we can spend money this year and not raise money next year, might look to approach the Board of Finance of giving extra thing this year at the end of the fiscal year and reduce the all that. It's a new way of doing it, but so in other words, we would. But it's an idea if we are looking at the end of the year, like we have some do those projects this year, get the things done, and then not increase the budgets. Okay, so anyway, we won't take any action on that, but I might. The Board of Finance gets the organization some money a little quicker.
Makes sense.
Your ideas sound
It's
creative.
different. Anyway, we're just trying to get our bottom line down there a little bit. Trying to get them to trim some off the Conservation Commission's budget there. Again, we can go look at that further another time, but I think at this point, we've gotten our budget to, I'd make a motion then that we send this off to the Board of Finance tomorrow for our meeting on Thursday. Our technical sense to see if we can have a Board of Finance meeting in the middle of a snowstorm. Now, this would be canceled, but with the new remote doing of things, we should be able to do it. Okay, so is there a second to sending the budget at its new
Second.
reduced? Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Committee is meeting next Monday at 4:00. They're working over some of the data. I think one of the things too is we've seen the housing market shift around. What's the new normal? What's going on? I know there was a big article about one of your Priscilla Cleve-Fusion. It's from Litchfield, who talked about, and he said what strikes him is a lack. There's very little inventory out there at all. Everything that can be sold is sold quickly. There's not the backlog of housing. Things have changed. I think the committee's goals from 2020 that we updated last November was to operation. So it might be a good time to, once that committee works a little bit, things we can mention about housing, people moving to town. In addition, what are some of the housing options that are out there? So again, I think it might be to do. There may be also a way to talk to some of the kind of thing, some of the programs. Housing Corporation has some lots.
I think anything you can do on housing that's affordable, nothing on the market right now in Cornwall listed for sale under a local that are looking to buy, their budget does not go over $300,000.
Right. Yeah.
That's reality.
Right.
And give us some ideas. I'm all for it.
Great. I'm meeting on Monday. Again, we don't have to nail down a time now, but I think there's some options out there. So again, I would like to push that. Another bank program they have in Norfolk for first-time home buyers that help somewhat. So again, whatever. So
yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on all that? The West Cornwall wastewater project. We had a meeting last night. Quite a bit of things done on the financial aspects. We've gotten some operating maintenance estimates from information up on the website. I think also we're looking at some, hopefully, referendum in meetings in June and maybe a vote in July out there that we need to get and trying to get it into some sort of explanatory and again have some meetings well ahead of the vote. That group is moving along there. We had talked about a town meeting such as the West Cornwall Firehouse lot, Sydney K Fund, 5 because of COVID. So again, I'll work with the town attorney getting a call together for that on those items someday in April.
Good.
Some night. I don't think time because all this could easily be a remote meeting. What's a good night? Does days really work for people? They're too busy outside enjoying beautiful Cornwall historically, or whether we do a weeknight. Anyway, we'll definitely need to nail that down. Probably at our next
Good.
meeting, at least a date for April. We've got to do things a month ahead of time so we get it out to the Chronicle. Let's see, more budget stuff. One thing, we probably did summer bridge work. We haven't done that. That's a bit off budget. We could get a work sequence, starting to think about that for. So anything else on the budget stuff? Well, then next would be the Internet Committee saying they have almost finished. Says we are finalizing the report and we'll publish it copy as soon as it's ready. The EDC and Cornwall Association are co-sponsoring Zoom 7 p.m. where the committee will discuss the report, take questions, what we'll work on next, etc. We hope you will participate in this forum and hope at the beginning of the meeting before we start discussing the reports, if you will, and stay well, Gary. So anyway, we can talk in March. We'll put it on the calendar. It's we each of us we haven't seen the report yet, but opinions on things, which is fine. I mean, we're not homogenized milk after all. My thought at this point is that Marina, maybe because you've been following this more, or could be the spokesperson. Maybe we can discuss it at our next March, but anyway,
Yeah.
we can work on some thoughts and you can be the spokes. I talk a lot. And
Mhm.
that's fine, but it's fine if everybody in that direction. I think that'd be great. So that's the comment. And again, thank John for people want to be on our list or other committees list. Just let us know on .net and we can give you as many notices as you want or even more. So there are a lot of meetings going. Participate. Okay, any public comments out there?
Yeah, I have a public
Oh,
comment, John.
public comment, yes. Nancy.
Thank you. Phil was very polite when he was talking about, and perhaps because I've always been concerned about Cream Hill Lake, and I want people to be, we all want people to enjoy with, but at the same time, it's I facilities where they gather, and there are that I observed with my own eyes. That's my summer. I wanted to have a family picnic, socially distanced, down part of Housatonic Meadow State Park that is very close to root pitch, and the state seems to be maintaining it. But the picnic tables, they might have even had a couple of senators all grown up. The picnic tables are gone, so there's nothing back there. I drove, there was nothing. And there are only a few tables along the front part. They've taken a lot of the state. Who contacts the state to see if they can keep that up? Okay, then the last thing I have to say is I'm thrilled to hear or refurbishing the transfer station. We heard from Ted and Will tonight how much the one place in all of Cornwall where probably 90% of the newcomers who come buy property or rent property, that's one place that I would hope that Ted and Will have a lot of input as to what they really need down there. You know, it's whimsical. If you're an out of towner and you're not here for a long time, it's not what I call the best working condition definition. The transfer station probably can't be, but I do feel we as a town can do this happen.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, and I think part of the thing is that speed will make some of those issues more. I mean, it's much better if crowds of people are the state parks. So we do have a pipeline, and if you Katie Dyke, she's very good, the state commissioner of DEP, and support that idea.
Summer and all fall, whereas some of the other parks were closed.
Right. Yeah. Yes,
Yes,
Mr. Magard's there. I see Mr.
Just a question. One of the land which on which people can build, but what really makes it difficult is the Nature Conservancy, because if the Nature Conservancy, it takes it completely out of the ability of anybody to use it over the years. And I'm wondering if you might think about limiting those donations.
Well, limit how people give. Encouraged in the past is if people think about donating property that affordable housing or middle class housing or whatever else that become unbalanced, you don't get a mix. So I think that's so that's what we have advocated that, and I think we can't restrict people, but I think what we will do is point out the other needs for the team. There's the town has a lot of things going on and has a lot of obligations. It has a lot of things it has to do, but we also need to have people here, part-time, full-time, whatever, to make this place go.
Right.
And you can't have people without having a house. So anyway, we're working on that, and that's one of our top priorities for this board is to push that forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, kudos to the people at the transfer station. They really operate incredibly pleasantly and it appears efficiently. And anyone who goes there, I think, is very, very impressed by what they've done.
Yes, well, thank you. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, thank you, John.